You take your calcium pills every single morning. You drink milk. You do everything you were told to do to keep your bones strong. Yet, your latest bone density scan, your DEXA scan, came back, and your numbers are worse. Your bones are thinning. Even scarier? Your doctor recently warned you about plaque building up in your arteries. What if I told you these two things are connected? Stop blindly taking calcium. Before we dive into the science of bone density, I need to be clear. I am not a doctor. This video is for educational purposes only. Always consult your physician before starting any new exercises or diet program. If you're watching this, you're probably somewhere between furious and terrified. And understandably so. Maybe you've been dutiful for years. Calcium tablets every morning, skim milk at breakfast, maybe a multivitamin. You followed the textbook advice. You wanted to protect your independence, your mobility, your future. And yet the number on that DEXA report keeps sliding the wrong way. That feeling, that gap between effort and results, is what I want to address. Here's the uncomfortable truth I'll prove in this video. More calcium does not always equal stronger bones. In fact, and this is the heart of today's message, taking calcium blindly can send that mineral to the wrong places, your arteries and kidneys. It's a paradox. You're feeding calcium, but your bones aren't getting stronger. Instead, you could be letting calcium accumulate where it creates harm. I call this the calcium paradox. Calcium goes in, but without the right guidance, it doesn't automatically go where you want it. It's like handing someone bricks with no instructions. Some will be used to build a house, but others will be dumped in the street, clogging traffic. So if calcium by itself isn't the answer, what is? Over the next chapters, I'll show you the two critical pieces most people are missing: how calcium gets into the bloodstream, and, far more importantly, how it is directed into bone instead of soft tissues. There are biological gatekeepers and traffic cops that decide where calcium lands. You need both. If you're over 50 and you've been told to up your calcium, pause. There's a reason clinicians now worry about arterial calcification alongside bone loss. Calcium in the wrong place stiffens arteries, contributes to plaque, and can increase cardiovascular risk. Meanwhile, your bones remain under-mineralized. That mismatch, more calcium where it hurts, less where it helps, is what I call the paradox. This video will give you a clear, science-grounded roadmap, not a miracle pill, but a biological framework, so that the calcium you take actually helps your bones. We'll bust myths, explain the simple molecules that control mineral traffic, and show practical steps you can start talking to your clinician about. If that sounds like what you need, stay with me. Up next, the science behind the calcium paradox, why calcium behaves like a dumb mineral, and what molecules act like its brain. Alright, let's dig into the biology. I want this part simple, visual, and impossible to forget. At the molecular level, calcium is literally dumb. It's an ion, Ca2+. It can't read, it can't choose, it just moves according to chemistry and the instructions other molecules give it. When you swallow calcium, that mineral enters a system full of gatekeepers and signposts. If the signposts are missing or turned off, calcium ends up in the wrong places. That's the calcium paradox. Step 1. Absorption. Vitamin D, we'll call it the Doorman, tells your gut to open up and let calcium into the bloodstream. Without D, much of the calcium you eat is simply excreted. But absorption is only the first step. Getting calcium into circulation is not the same as getting calcium into bone. Think of it like moving bricks into the yard. You can offload them at the curb, but that doesn't mean they'll be used to build the house. Once in the bloodstream, calcium is just floating around, unless it receives instructions. The body relies on special proteins to capture calcium and place it where it's needed. Two of these proteins are absolutely central: osteocalcin, made by bone-forming cells, and matrix GLA protein, or MGP, made in vascular tissues. These proteins must be chemically activated to do their jobs. If they're not activated, calcium can't be held in bone and can instead stick to artery walls or form kidney stones. Activation is a biochemical switch. a tiny chemical tag that changes a protein's shape so it can grab calcium. Vitamin K2 provides the molecular tools to flip that switch. K2 modifies these proteins in a process called carboxylation. Think of it like attaching Velcro hooks to a glove, so that glove can now grab onto calcium. Without K2, the glove is flat and useless. Bones aren't static blocks, they're living tissue. Two cell types constantly remodel them. Osteoclasts break down old bone, osteoblasts build new bone. Osteoblasts secrete osteocalcin, which, when activated, binds calcium and integrates it into the bone's mineral scaffold, hydroxyapatite. If osteocalcin is underactivated, osteoblasts can't efficiently mineralize new bone. So even if you flood the bloodstream with calcium, the bone-building crew doesn't have the right equipment to use it. Now flip to arteries. MGP's job is protective. It binds free calcium in vessel walls and prevents it from precipitating into hard deposits. But MGP needs the same K2 switch to work. If MGP is underactivated, calcium begins to crystallize in artery walls, the very plaque many clinicians fear. So the same absence of K2 that starves bone of mineral simultaneously removes the guardrail protecting arteries. That's the paradox. Bones lose, arteries gain. There's another practical detail people miss. Supplements and high-calcium meals can create transient spikes in blood calcium. Those spikes are moments when calcium is especially likely to deposit where it shouldn't, in soft tissues, unless the capture proteins are ready and active. In short, giving calcium without ensuring the activation machinery is available is like dumping a truckload of bricks in the middle of town with no masons. Some bricks might get used, some will clog the roads. So let's make this simple and sticky. Vitamin D opens the door. Vitamin K2 gives calcium the GPS and seatbelt it needs to get off the highway and into the bone safely. Without that GPS, calcium becomes a rogue passenger. You can feed the system all you want, but without navigation, the mineral will park in places it shouldn't. A lot of people assume more calcium equals stronger bones. That's a textbook soundbite, but it's incomplete. The full picture is calcium plus absorption, D3, plus activation or targeting, K2, plus mechanical stimulus, weight-bearing activity, equals bone mineralization. Remove any of those elements, and the formula breaks down. That's why scans can worsen even in people who faithfully take calcium. Next up, we'll introduce the two biological heroes in close-up. D3, the Doorman, and K2, the traffic cop GPS. I'll explain exactly how each works, where to get them, and why K2 is the missing link in most people's bone health strategies. If you're ready to move from confusion to a practical plan, you're in the right place. Now meet the two biological heroes who actually decide where your calcium goes. I call them D3, the Doorman, and K2, the traffic cop, GPS. One lets calcium into the system. The other tells it where to park. You need both. Let's start with vitamin D3. Think of D3 as the doorman at a busy club. When D3 is present and active, the intestine increases the proteins and channels that actively move calcium from your gut into the bloodstream. In plain terms, D3 raises the fractional absorption of dietary calcium. Without enough D3, much of the calcium you eat is simply lost, excreted rather than absorbed. That's why clinicians check your 25-hydroxyvitamin D level when they worry about bone health. Important, D3 gets calcium into the blood, but it doesn't tell calcium where to go next. That's a critical distinction. You can have excellent vitamin D status and still misdirect calcium if the downstream targeting system is inactive. So D3 is necessary, but not sufficient, if your goal is to build bone and avoid soft tissue calcification. This is where vitamin K2 steps into the story. If D3 is the doorman, K2 is the traffic cop, and GPS combined, the molecule that allows calcium to be captured and directed into bone and kept out of arteries. Vitamin K2 is a family of related molecules, called menaquinones. They play a specific biochemical role, activating certain proteins by a process called carboxylation. These proteins, like osteocalcin in bone and matrix glue protein, MGP, in blood vessels, need to be carboxylated to bind calcium properly. Without K2, those proteins remain undercarboxylated and functionally weak. The result? The bone's calcium grabbers don't work well, and the vascular guardrails don't hold, letting calcium crystallize in arteries. Quick primer on the two MVPs. Osteocalcin, made by bone-forming cells, helps lock calcium into the bone's mineral scaffold. MGP, made in the arterial wall, prevents calcium from forming hard deposits. Both require K2-driven carboxylation to do their jobs. So K2 simultaneously helps bones stock up and keeps arteries from hardening. That dual role is why K2 sits at the center of the bone vascular conversation. Not all K2s are identical. The most commonly discussed forms are MK4 and MK7. MK4 is found in some animal foods and has a short circulation time. MK7, found in fermented foods like natto and many supplements, has a longer half-life and is more consistently detectable in blood after nutritional doses. That longer persistence makes MK7 attractive for supporting steady activation of those calcium-targeting proteins. Where do you get K2 naturally? Natto, a Japanese fermented soybean, is the richest source of MK7. Smaller amounts are found in hard cheeses, certain fermented vegetables, organ meats, egg yolks, and grass-fed dairy like butter. For many people, especially in Western diets that lack natto and organ meats, supplementation or targeted dietary changes are how they achieve meaningful K2 intake. Here's the practical take-home. Vitamin D3 and vitamin K2 are synergistic. D3 increases the amount of calcium available in the bloodstream. K2 ensures that calcium is captured by the right proteins and delivered to bone rather than vascular walls. Together, they create a pathway for safe mineral redirection. Several clinical and mechanistic studies support this partnership, which is why many bone health strategies pair them. Important safety note: vitamin K, including K2, interacts with vitamin K antagonist anticoagulants like warfarin. Even low doses of MK7 can influence anticoagulation in some people. So if you're taking warfarin or similar drugs, you must consult your prescribing clinician before making changes to dietary K intake or starting supplements. This is non-negotiable. So that's the biological cast. D3 opens the door, K2 activates the capture crew, and shows calcium where to park. Next, we'll talk about how to use food, movement, and a coordinated protocol, what I call the bone density solution, to create the environment your body needs to actually redirect minerals back into the skeleton safely. Welcome to the part where the rubber meets the road. Real food, real movement, and a realistic protocol you can discuss with your clinician. I call this the bone density solution. Not a pill or a promise, but a step-by-step educational blueprint that teaches you how to create the biological environment your skeleton needs to reclaim mineral. This protocol organizes the things we've discussed. D3 to get calcium in, K2 to target it, plus magnesium and targeted movement, into a practical roadmap. It shows exactly which foods and lifestyle levers to prioritize, how to balance supplements safely, and which tests to ask your clinician for. It's an educational roadmap, not a miracle fix, but it gives you the tools to stop throwing calcium at the problem and start directing it where it belongs. First, K2. The richest natural source is natto, a fermented soybean dish used in Japan. It's extremely high in MK7 and raises circulating K2 and carboxylated osteocalcin. For many people, natto is unfamiliar or an acquired taste, so other sources include hard cheeses, certain fermented vegetables, egg yolks, organ meats, and grass-fed butter, all of which add meaningful K2 to the diet. If you're considering a supplement, most modern protocols favor MK7 because it's well absorbed and stays in the circulation longer than MK4, meaning steadier activation of the calcium-binding proteins. That longer persistence helps keep osteocalcin and MGP carboxylated throughout the day. Don't guess on vitamin D. The protocol starts with measurement. Ask for a 25-hydroxyvitamin D test. Then, if indicated, support steady D3 levels rather than chasing huge single doses. D3 and K2 work as partners. D3 increases calcium availability, K2 directs it. Combining them thoughtfully is the core of the mineral redirection strategy. Magnesium is another frequent blind spot. It's required for healthy bone structure and supports the same metabolic environment that allows calcium to be used effectively. Many older adults don't get enough magnesium from diet alone. Nuts, seeds, whole grains, leafy greens, and legumes are good food sources. Evidence suggests higher magnesium intake supports hip and femoral neck bone mineral density. A practical biohack: take fat-soluble nutrients like D3 and K2 with a meal containing some healthy fat so they're better absorbed. Keep magnesium intake balanced through diet or under clinician guidance via supplements. The goal is steady availability, not big, infrequent spikes, so your activation proteins can do their job. Remember, nutrition creates availability and targeting, but bone is a responsive tissue. It needs a mechanical signal. Weight-bearing and resistance exercises tell osteoblasts, build here. Clinical guidelines recommend regular weight-bearing impact and resistance training to maintain or improve bone mineral density and reduce fall risk. Short, consistent sessions several times per week are very effective. So what does a practical week look like? Focus on daily nutritional foundations. K2-rich foods when possible, steady D3 support, magnesium-rich meals. And combine that with 3 sessions per week of weight-bearing resistance work plus balance training. The protocol walks you through meal examples, a supplement checklist, and a beginner-friendly movement routine you can do at home or at the gym. 2 quick safety notes. If you're on anticoagulants like warfarin, or you have complex medical conditions, don't change your K intake or start supplements without discussing it with your prescribing clinician. Also, this protocol emphasizes testing and clinician collaboration. It's a roadmap to use alongside medical care, not instead of it. The bone density solution doesn't promise magic. What it does offer is education: how to test, which foods to prioritize, sensible supplement choices, how to pair nutrients and movement, and what lab values and DEXA changes to monitor. For people tired of taking calcium without results, it's a way to build a coordinated plan that directs biology in your favor. Next up, quick, practical action steps you can start today. 3 habits that matter most for skeletal longevity. After that, we'll finish with the final disclaimer and how to get the full protocol if you want it. Let's bring everything together. If you remember nothing else from this video, remember this: calcium is not the enemy. Misdirected calcium is the problem. For decades, many people were told, just take more calcium, but biology is more sophisticated than that. Your body needs a coordinated system to absorb calcium, guide it, and integrate it into bone tissue. We talked about something called the calcium paradox. Without the right biological signals, calcium can accumulate in places like arteries or kidneys, while bones remain undermineralized. That's why some people see their bone density decline even while faithfully taking supplements. It's not just about intake, it's about direction. Think back to the analogy. Vitamin D3 is the doorman. It helps calcium get absorbed into the bloodstream. Vitamin K2 is the traffic cop and GPS. It activates the proteins that pull calcium out of circulation and anchor it into bone, while helping keep arteries clear. When these systems work together, calcium has a destination. But even with the right nutrients, bones still need a signal that tells them to use those minerals. That signal is mechanical load. Activities like brisk walking, resistance training, bodyweight exercises, or light strength work stimulate osteoblasts, the bone-building cells. In simple terms, when bone senses stress, it responds by reinforcing itself. The second habit is nutrient synergy. Instead of focusing on a single nutrient, think in systems. Calcium works alongside vitamin D3, vitamin K2, magnesium, and a nutrient-dense diet. The goal isn't megadoses. It's balance and consistency, so your body has the tools it needs to support bone density over time. The third habit is testing and planning. Bone health improves when you monitor the right markers: vitamin D levels, follow-up DEXA scans, and a clinician-guided strategy tailored to your health history. Guessing rarely works. Having a roadmap does. If you want a step-by-step guide that brings all of these elements together: nutrition, movement, mineral balance, and testing, check the link in the description for the Bone Density Solution. It's an educational protocol that explains exactly how to pair nutrients like D3, K2, and magnesium with targeted movement strategies designed to support your skeletal system and help redirect minerals back where they belong, into your bones. Bone health isn't determined by a single pill or a single habit. It's built over time through the signals you give your body every day, the nutrients you consume, the way you move, and the biological environment you create for your skeleton. The encouraging news is that when those signals align, your body has an incredible capacity to maintain and support its own structural strength. Before we wrap up, one final reminder. This video is for educational purposes only. It is not medical advice. I am not a doctor, and you should always consult your physician or qualified healthcare professional before making changes to your diet, supplements, or exercise routine, especially if you have osteoporosis, kidney conditions, or take medications such as anticoagulants. If you found this helpful, consider sharing it with someone who's worried about their bone health. And remember, the goal isn't just adding more calcium, it's making sure your body knows exactly where to send it.